Let's talk more football, though, from a Seahawks perspective. Our weekly conversation with Michael-Shawn Dugar from The Athletic, brought to you by Georgetown Brewery and Georgetown's new Tavern Beer.
Drink Georgetown Tavern Beer, your new locally brewed domestic-style lager. 4.2% alcohol. Cheap, good, local.
Here he is, ladies and gentlemen, Michael-Shawn Dugar from The Athletic, the Dugar Report. You can follow Mike on social media at Mike Dugar. Of course, co-host of the world-renowned podcast, Seahawks Man-to-Man podcast, covers the Seahawks for The Athletic, and he joins us weekly, brought to you by Georgetown's new Tavern Beer, easy drinking domestic-style lager made with Pacific Northwest barley and Yakima Valley hops, 4.2%, brewed by our good friends at Georgetown Brewery, makers of Manny's and Bodhisattva and Rogers Pilsner. Michael-Shawn Dugar joining us from the Dugar Estate, joining me inside the Limback Lumber Studios. All right, draft is getting closer and closer and closer and closer. Do we got anything? Are there any rumors, rumblings on the Seahawks, or is it all, are they keeping everything close and tight to the vest?
Yeah, I think they're still treating everything like state secrets. It's weird. It feels like when they have higher picks, it feels like we get a little bit more of an indication of what they're going to do. I remember that like when they had the 5th pick, I feel like it was not just more intriguing, obviously, because the pick was higher, but just more inclination on where they might go. Their interest in quarterbacks was obviously very evident based on how much they paraded around their entire brain trust to everybody's pro day and took selfies, which I thought was fun. I would love to see Mike McDonald do that. It just seems like that's not his bag at all. And even the year they had Charles, it was you just get a sense like, oh yeah, they're probably going to take an offensive lineman. It was so obvious. They didn't re-sign Dwayne Brown, so they needed a left tackle, yada, yada. Here, not as much, with the 18th pick and 5 picks in the top 100, it does feel like John, it feels like he's trying to let us know how much he's learned from the past. Like, hey, I used to do this. That's burned us. I've learned my lesson on this. We got to operate like this. Not to say he has drastically changed his process, but he's almost over explaining this offseason, it feels like, which is good. I enjoy it because what the hell were you thinking is something that I've wondered quite a few years with John. So it's nice to know what he is thinking.
Mike, do you think he's doing that? Do you think, why is he doing that? Is he feeling some type of pressure, you think?
Yeah, well, I can't speak to pressure. That's I think he feels the sense of urgency among the fan base. I think that's probably a better way to put it, because pressure would involve like feeling something from people who cut checks, and I don't know if he's feeling that. But definitely from the fan base for sure. I mean, when he does his radio show, he's got a good PR director in Dave Pearson. I know Dave keeps him abreast of the narratives and the conversations going around, whether it's something as frivolous as Picturegate last offseason or how fans feel about the offensive line. Like, that's the PR guy's job in that case to like, hey, just so you know, this is the talk. And I think that I know that Dave does that. And that's good that he does that because it's important. And you just hear so much of John defending his process lately. And I don't think that's by accident. I think he's recognizing that is in question quite a bit. It's because then it comes to, if you're the GM, process and transactions is really all you got, man. You don't run no 40s, like you don't coach on Sunday. So all we got is the decisions you make. But as you know, sometimes it's the decisions you don't, or the decisions you tried to make but couldn't get done because it takes 2 to tangle. And you can kind of sense John explaining that more and more and more. Not to say it all makes sense. Half of it doesn't. But just his attempt to try to, make it, let everyone know, hey, I know what I'm doing. Trust me. And that is one hell of an ask based on the track record at some spots.
How much more influence will Mike McDonald have this year in the draft? Do you think he'll be more vocal, more active in the process, or do coaches now just sit back? Listen, that's not our thing. That's the personnel department. They can make those decisions.
I think broadly what I've kind of learned about coach involvement, every coach for the most part kind of has their thing that they can get the benefit of the doubt on. For Pete, it was obviously DBs. With Mike, it seems to be linebackers and just defense in general. And you can go so on. Like Aaron Glenn's probably going to have heavier input on any DBs the Jets take. Just everybody kind of has that thing. Sean McVay, maybe quarterbacks, and so on and so forth. D'Amico Ryans, linebackers. So I think if anything, you'll probably get better defensive fits now. I think John recognized who can play defense and who can't. Duh. But like, who's gonna shine in this particular scheme? Like, who's gonna just make an impact, particularly early on? I think they probably have a better feel for it now. I mean, I think last year, Puck, might have been the first time I saw a draft pick just not even make the team. DJ James didn't even make it. He's a 6th-round pick. We've had guys they've taken who maybe not panned out, obviously, that late, but dude just didn't even make it. That's pretty rare, and I think that's the type of stuff that you probably want to cut out if you're the Seahawks. Not to say that all your 6th-round picks need to be Pro Bowlers or whatever, but dog, they should make the squad because you just took that pick and threw it in Lake Washington, so to speak. So I think you probably see a little bit better fits in that regard. And then O-line, I think we're transitioning slowly back to the Tom Cable level of influence with those selections. As you know, Tom Cable had so much influence over their picks that they were trotting Tom out on draft night, to explain them. And I don't know if John Benton will speak. That's the new O-line coach. I don't know if he'll speak on draft night when they take a guy. But it feels like we're transitioning back more to that, to say, hey, we are so set on making sure that the guys we take align with who the coaches need, that we will have the coaches explain it to you after we take them. And that's something that they lost a little bit, for better or worse. I think we're kind of getting back to that. I think in particular you see the influence with the line coaches and defensive guys, because obviously that's Mike's bread and butter.
Yeah. Well, which I think is a good thing, right? I mean, I think coaches should have an influence. I mean, I think, and especially position coaches, I think they should be part of the process. I mean, obviously not the final say and all that kind of stuff, because there can be a back and forth between the two sides. And obviously the personnel department's been doing it, all season long. And the coaches, they, certainly pop their head in there in and out, but, they can't be involved in it as much because they're coaching. But, to your point, which you just raised, they are coaching them. They would probably like, hey, I think that guy's a better fit for what we're trying to do here. Let me give you my 2 cents. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great approach. I mean, I would assume most teams do that, but yeah, if they got away from it, that's probably a mistake on their part.
You'd be surprised, though, with different organizations, what level of influence coaches have and which ones don't, which position coaches get the benefit of the doubt. And sometimes it's warranted, sometimes, you might get a DB coach who bangs the table for a guy. Maybe a DB coach bang the table for DJ James. It could be that. Maybe you get an instance where DB coach likes a guy, but the scout who spent 6 months on this guy doesn't, or vice versa. Like, how do you break that tie? That goes into it as well. The area scout that loves this random linebacker from the Southwest region versus maybe Mike McDonald comes in and is like, I don't know, man, that guy can't shed a block to save his life. Mm-hmm. How you break the tie? I think that's where teams, particularly in later rounds, I think in the early rounds, like your top 50, maybe top 100, you probably want just a general consensus. If we don't all love this guy, let's not take him. I think where you get the meat and potatoes of your draft class is sometimes tough. Like, how do we break a tie? Position coach, maybe defer to the scout who's watched a lot more of them and has been at the school and maybe met the kid's parents or whatever. So it's tough, man. Honestly, Puck, one of my hot takes for the draft is we spend way too much time on it. Like, I think teams do. I mean, like, I just don't.
Teams do, not us.
Yes, not us. Because we're basically just we're all part of the machine in terms of promoting a TV show for ESPN or whatever.
It is a TV show, right?
But in terms of the teams, I don't think there needs to be this much time in between the college football season ending and the draft. I think it's like 3 months, 3 and some change. Like that's just way too long. I think if the draft was in February, I don't think the teams would be any better or worse at selecting. I think what would honestly improve is just I think teams would get better at it because you have less time to overthink. Like there's full-on articles and stories now on whether it's good or bad that Shedeur Sanders pats the ball. Like that's kind of those are things that only happen when you have to do this for 3 months. Right? That's exactly what that is. So I don't think we need it.
But it's a television series. You know that.
I think you can still do it just after. Like if the draft was when the combine is, like let's say the draft was right after the combine, first week of March, like you attach it to that, we'd still have all this time to dissect and do stuff, and we'd still have a dead period in June and July. I don't think any of that would change.
You need that carrot to be dangled right now. Like what would take it? What would take its place in April? Like you need that build up.
I think you switch free agency. I think you put free agency afterwards, like they do in the NBA. Because you look at how they do it, it's not like July is any less intriguing because people have already made their draft picks.
All right.
And I think the argument in favor of having it the way it is now is so that veterans don't get squeezed out, because everyone thinks, oh, well, Mike, if they got a 3rd round pick, they just took that guy. Why would they pay insert guy? Well, it's like, I got bad news for you. In theory, you're correct. In application, that's already happening. They're already cutting a Quandre Diggs for money purposes so they can go draft a safety. Like, that's already happening. There is no middle class, really. Either you're a premier guy getting the bag or you're cut as a cap casualty. It's already happening. We would just change when it happens, but that it happens would not change if you switch the order.
Draft. I mean, how active do you think he wants to be? He likes to trade. I mean, I think there's a lot of GMs that like to trade, but obviously Schneider is one of those guys that, man, he loves to wheel and deal. The expectation, he keeps 18, likely wouldn't move up. Does he move down? How active do you think he gets in the 2nd round of wanting to acquire more picks?
I got 2 trade predictions. I think they trade out of 18 and trade up in the 2nd, because I think that this is a draft where a lot of teams are going to have similar grades on prospect 13 through like 50, probably something like that. And so if you're John, who's pretty stingy with 1st round grades, as I understand, I bet you probably only got like 10 or 11 1st round grades on guys, if that, maybe. So if you're on the board at 18, all your guys are gone. Well, you trade out. Now, the trade compensation isn't as great as it used to be, at least based on the last few drafts. You might get a 4th round pick, 5th round pick, or whatever to move back. But whatever, take it. It's better than taking a guy you don't like, at 18 or whatever. So I think that's going to happen, because I think the likelihood that someone with a 1st round grade is there for them. Now, maybe they don't have a partner and have to pick anyway. I think they tried to trade before taking Jordan Brooks. So they'll tell us they had a 1st round grade on him, but you tried to trade out of it. I doubt that they had a 1st round grade on LJ, for instance. That was pick 29 in 2019. So I that's my first prediction, just because I don't think there'll be someone with a 1st round grade available.
So out of the 1st round
19.
altogether?
No, I think it's going to be too. I think because people view prospects so similarly, I don't think you'll get like the Browns coming up from 33 or whatever to, or 34, whatever they have to 18. But I could see just jumping back a few spots and just feeling like, all right, we still may not we don't have a 1st round grade on this guy, but now we picked up an extra 5th or whatever, with the thought, which ties into my 2nd prediction, that they then move up in the 2nd round, the top of the 2nd. I think let's say you trade from 18 to 23 or whatever. You may not still have a 1st round grade on the guy you took at 23, but you're like, you know what, this is basically the early 2nd round to us anyway. And now we picked up an extra 5th, an extra 6th or whatever, maybe even a 4th. Let's use that when we're on the board with pick 50 or whatever, trying to get up to 39, 37, blah, 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 where they took Derek Hall. I think, you use the ammunition you get in a trade back to eventually take a guy, but also then trade up in the 2nd. Cause I think that's where I can see a lot of activity there, because of what I'm saying about where teams have such and such, they're going to wake up Friday morning and be like, yo, that guy's still there. Let's call the Giants. Let's call the Browns. Let's call the Patriots. All these teams that have the high 2nd round picks. I could see that. That's my kind of early trade scenario prediction.
Because the people that you talk to within the organization, they would probably tell you something very similar that we've heard about this draft, right? Lacks the star power, but it has some depth to it.
Yeah, I think there's star power at certain spots. It just depends on what spot you're looking for. Like, honestly, I think there's a lot of good defensive tackles here. I think if you need receivers, I don't say if you need a receiver too, it's a good draft. But yeah, just generally, it's not just like blue chip guys, and who knows how accurate that'll end up being. For instance, the Seahawks John told us he punted on the 2021 draft, which is when they only had 3 picks, gave up a lot for Jamal in that trade because he was kind of unsure about how things would look, COVID and everything. And you look at the top of that class, it was great. Everybody from that class getting paid. That's except for the quarterbacks, they all stunk. But you look at Sewell, J.C. Horn, Patrick Surtain, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle. Micah hasn't gotten paid yet, but he's going to. Like that class had studs at the position at the non-quarterback spot. So who knows? Maybe this class is like that as well. So yeah, but not a lot. I don't think you're going to see a lot of teams trying to jump up. Like if the Browns dangle that 2nd pick, I'd be surprised if someone gives them trades the house for that. It's just not that kind of draft.
In those the first, I got to pull it up because I always got to remind myself. So they've got what 1, 2, 3 picks in the top 52, right?
Mm-hmm.
18, 50, and 52. What's got to be the goal for them and those if they keep those picks, the 3 in the top 52? What's ultimately got to be the goal for them to acquire what type and what level of talent?
So the way I look at it is kind of tiered. I think you need a starter in that first round. I don't really care what spot. Just he should be able to start. Like, I wasn't mad at the Byron Murphy pick. I understand, but at the end of the day, he wasn't starting. And I think you need someone who has a path, like a pretty direct path to starting, like Charles Cross, obvious direct path to starting. Devin Witherspoon, obvious direct path. Jackson, essentially the same thing. 3 wide receiver world they were living in. You are in effect a start. I think it has to be something like that. That doesn't mean you can't take. You can take a spot where you already have a starter, like tight end, for instance. You can take one. If he's better than Noah Fant and AJ Barner today, sure, that's great. Take a safety if you want. If he's better than Julian Love or Kobe Bryant by September 9th or whatever, cool, roll him out there. But I think that has to be the thought. If you're getting a guy you don't think you can start, keep trading back until whatever. Just don't force a guy you don't think has a clean path to starting, preferably by opening day. That should be the goal. And day 2, I don't need him to start right away, but by year 2 he should be. Like, that should, like, if year one, we're going to get him some reps in case somebody gets hurt, whatever. That just kind of is the nature of football. But year 2, he should be rolling. And I think that if you look at it like that, their drafts, that's kind of why they've been a little bit underwhelming a little bit, is like, yeah, these guys haven't popped right away, but then that next year, like Zach Charbonnet's still a backup. He's picked 52. Derek Hall, still a backup. He's picked 37. Boye Mafe is a good player, but he might be, if they start Chenna and D-Law, Boye is essentially your third edge rusher. He's picked 40. So, I think that's how you should look at your day 2 guys. Like, maybe you get some reps due to injury year 1, but by year 2, I should be able to let the veteran ahead of you walk if he's too expensive or whatever, knowing because, hey, I got insert pick 52, insert pick 82. That should be the thought. And then day 3, it doesn't matter. Fill some needs. Just take ball players on day 3.
Okay. What does your gut tell you on those? Let's say in the first 90, the first, let's say, 1, 2, 3, 5 picks they have in the top 92. What's your gut tell you that finally, once and for all, they take a quarterback?
That's funny. I got a story coming on that tomorrow. I couldn't finish it in time to get it to run today. But yeah, I could see John and those guys just loving the hell out of this Tyler Shough guy. I don't love him, but I did watch all of the quarterbacks. I watched them all this week except for Milroe and Shador, because I kind of had watched them quite a bit during the season. But the other guys, like, I didn't watch Syracuse games until they played us in the bowl game, yada yada. But of the guys I watched, so that was McCord, Will Howard, Shough, Dart, I think one more guy. Of those, I could easily see them loving Shough, because if he wasn't already the same age as me, he'd probably be drafted higher. Like, he can spin it. Fuck, I'm telling you, like, you got a good arm, probably as good an arm as anyone in the class that's not Cam Ward. He moves really well, like really, really well. He can change his arm angles, like super good. So he knows how to problem solve. Like, hey, I'm getting pressured, but let me just sidearm this real quick so I can get it to my guy to avoid a sack or a throwaway, or whatever. He's a risk taker. Like, I could see them easily loving that dude. That he'll play on time, but if shit hits the fan, he'll figure it out. Versus someone like Dart, I would say, who his recourse, at least from the games that I saw, when shit hit the fan, he just dropped his eyes and ran, which is fine. He's a good athlete, but that's not sustainable. I mean, Jalen Hurts even has that issue now, and he's a great athlete. Like, he drops his eyes and runs. So I think if they do take a guy, I could see them falling in love with Shough because he just has so much good tools. He has a strong arm. He's mobile, throws off platform, gets out of trouble. I can hit throws at all 3 levels. He's just he'll be 26 as a rookie. That's like his main drawback.
That's it? Just because he's going to turn 26? Because everybody that you're the same, and everybody that you listen to that talks about him raves about him. And then if you didn't know where he was projected to go, everyone would think, well, that's going to be one of the top quarterbacks taken. He's a top 10 draft pick. He's a top 5. But yet, is it just the age? Like, who cares?
It's 2 things. It's the age, which I get to, but I also think if you just look at the play, it's also like he's got that like I gotta give my guy a chance mentality with his play, which is fine, but it's like sometimes you gotta tell him, dude, no, you don't. It's fine. It's second down. You do not gotta throw that. You can just take it's gonna be a big sack here. It might be 11 yards because you scrambled, but dude, just go down. Don't gotta throw it late. You don't gotta he'll throw the ball like when his butt's damn near on the ground. Because he's got a strong arm, and because his guy is there in the flat. He does that in the flat quite a bit from the games I watch, which is dangerous. How you get like pick sixes and stuff to linemen because you're just trying to flip it to your running back last second to avoid a sack. So like some of the decision making is a little iffy in that regard. It's more so just like way too much faith in his own arm, which Drew Lock had that same issue in Denver, which is why I think he led the league in picks in 2020. So I see a little bit of Drew Lock, Matt Stafford, in that regard. Matt, who also led the league in picks in 2021. So these guys who have so much faith in their arm that they just feel like, you know what, fuck it, I can do it. You know, I've done it my whole life. Like, well, no, the DBs are better. The linemen are faster. And I think the other part is because he's not like, I feel like if you've been in college so long that you roomed with Justin Herbert, that you should be like so much better. You should be more like polished than he currently is. That's where I think the age factors in. Penix was the same thing for me. It's like, dude, you've been in college for a minute. You should be like way better at like just everything if you've been in college so this long. I think Shough was like 6 or 7 years. So I think that's where the age comes in. I'm with you. Like just taking a guy longevity, that doesn't matter. Russ and Gino both made Pro Bowls in their age 32 and age 33 seasons. You can play forever at QB. That's not an issue. Anyone saying that is silly. But I do think if you are going to be 26 as a rookie, I need you to look like Jaden Daniels.
Okay.
Jaden played. He had 1 million snaps in college between Arizona and LSU. And he looked like it when you watched him. You're like, oh, this guy's seen that blitz. He knows how to read this. He's super accurate. Like that. I need you to look like that if you're going to be older. Whereas if you're younger, you can look like Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson was like 20 years old when he got drafted or whatever. And it looked like it, which was fine. So I think that's where for me, that's why you bring up his age. It's like the polish relative to age, if that makes sense.
Okay. All right. What do you got? So tomorrow the story comes out on the quarterbacks at The Athletic?
Yeah. I talked a little bit about Shough and some of the other like guys I would take in each round or each day, excuse me. Because I think I really only like a couple guys for the Seahawks. I think their scheme is so defined that it makes it honestly very easy to say yes, no, because I know what the scheme looks like. It's tried and true. So yeah, I went through some of the guys, watched them. I didn't do it. It's not a film breakdown because I'm not that good at that. But just like, hey, trust me, I watched the guys. Here's who fits. Here's who I think the Seahawks may like, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, I got that coming out tomorrow on The Athletic.
All right. And then when I watch and listen to the latest Seahawks Man-to-Man podcast on YouTube and all podcast platforms, what am I getting?
Who do we just have? Oh, we had my man Kyron Samuels, man. He covers the NFL and college for on SI. Man, Kai is great, man. Played at Jacksonville State. Had a cup of coffee with some of the not semi-pro, but like XFL stuff like that too. Played offensive line, but just knows ball, man. Like as much as people may think when I'm talking about football, so I'm like I know it. Kai's 10 times that, man. Okay. So we had him do Puck, which I really liked. We had him do he's what they look like just the best players available. Just forget going position by position. Just who are the dudes, and one of the reasons we did that because I think the Seahawks do that in the draft. They're just gonna try to take the best guys. But also, I remember talking to Randy Mueller about drafting Walter Jones, who, as you know, didn't play much at Florida State. His final year was a JUCO transfer, was in a rotation at Florida State, wasn't a ton of tape on him, and they used a high pick on him with new ownership. As you know, they had to cut a big check back then, like right away, and that was a big deal. And I remember asking Randy about why he was so convicted, and one of the things he mentioned was, he's like, man, I didn't know what I didn't know, but also, Mike, when I watched this guy, that is what a left tackle looked like. That's all I needed to know. So I just know that's it. The bend, the athleticism, forget how many reps he's had or whatever. That's what it looks like. So I'm taking him. And obviously that panned out. So that's why I wanted to frame with our discussion with Kai. Who's what they look like at that spot? Take them. And that's what we have up right now. YouTube, Spotify, Apple, everywhere podcasts are found.
Perfect. Go listen to it. Go watch it. Also read all of Mike's work up at The Athletic, athletic.com, the Dugar Report with Michael-Shawn Dugar. Again, find all of his work at The Athletic. Co-host Seahawks Man-to-Man podcast. Georgetown Tavern Beer brings you Dugar every single week. Easy drinking domestic-style lager made with Pacific Northwest barley and Yakima Valley hops, 4.2%, brewed by our good friends at Georgetown Brewery. All right, I'm off next week, so we will talk to you 2 weeks. That will be the draft, right? Oh my God, it will be. We'll have to work around that. We'll have to work around that draft day. But all right. So until then, we'll get your latest Dugar mock draft.
Right now, or what I'm about to do?
I want
next
it in
one?
2 weeks. I want it before we get to the draft. Your latest one before we get to it. All right.
I think the timing's going to work out on that. I think mine is due April 21st. We have to do. Everyone at The Athletic has to do one the week of the draft. I think mine's due like April 22nd or something. So there you go. I haven't started it yet. But
give me some surprises. I want some chaos. All right, do it for me. I want chaos.
It's nice when shout out to my colleague at The Athletic, Dane Brugler. I'm much better at mocks once he drops the beast. But Puck filling out day 3 picks before he drops that.
Dane, that thing, and that's a good promo because that's a good promotion for that because Dane's on with us. He's part of the Puck's Posse membership. You can go and listen to all and watch all of his episodes. Sign up to be a member today. But Dane releases, for those who don't know, Dane Brugler releases this. I don't know how many pages this thing is. It's the beast. He covers every single person in this draft. And it's even bigger and better now because normally you would get it in like a PDF form, which is great. And I would print that thing out for the draft, and it looks like a Bible. But now it's like interactive, perfect for like for the web, and it's just beautiful. And he puts so much time and effort into it, and you just get nuggets out of there that you just don't get anywhere else. All right, we'll talk to you in a few weeks, Mike.
All right, see you, Puck. Go Cougs.